Actually, I wasn't born here. My father was a dentist and he moved here because a friend of his was already living here and it was a good opportunity to get out of Toronto. So in 1964, we moved to Aurelia and my parents purchased a home at 9 Nawash in downtown, the historical part of downtown Aurelia. And I started grade 1 at Central Public School. And I went all through elementary school at Central, then I went to Hillcrest, and then I did high school at ODCVI. After high school, I decided it was time to get out of Dodge, and I went to the University of Guelph to take hotel and food because my brother was in the program, and he said, "Oh, you'd be great, it's a great program." Well, I went, and I lasted about one semester. I was not happy. The big fish from the little pond was the little fish in a big pond, and I decided university wasn't for me. So I headed out west to find fame and fortune working as a chambermaid at Jasper Park Lodge, joining a friend of mine who I went to high school with. After going to university, I decided that was not for me, and my mother encouraged me. I was a sewer and I had a flair for fashion, so she suggested I take fashion design at Fanshawe. So I enrolled in that program, and during my co-op I had the good fortune to meet two very strong independent women, Diana Bennett and Debbie Rosberg, and they were starting a business called Sweathearts, and this was in the early 80s, and we designed and manufactured ladies wear, very similar to what Lululemon is today, but don't forget that was 30 something years ago, probably 40 years ago. And I was the general manager, and I handled all the operations of the retail part of the business. So I managed 4 stores, the warehouse, inventory control, and I learned so much from Debbie and Diana. They were strong women and role models. I think everything you learn along the way, you take those skills and those skill sets and then apply it to the next chapter. So after I ended up meeting my husband through my brother, and I was living in Toronto, he was living in Aurelia, and it was a good segue to get back to Aurelia. After a number of years, we ended up getting married, and I retired from Sweathearts and inherited a stepson, so I took on full-time homemaker, and I was quite happy with that role. And as my husband owned a business, it was difficult for me to get a job outside of the home. So I became very industrious, and I took my passion and my knowledge and expertise of sewing and started a little business called Marci Wear, making kids clothes. And through that, I did home parties, and everything was a one-off. It was going quite well. The 90s hit, and unfortunately my husband lost his business and we went bankrupt, and I had to find a new career. And that's when he encouraged me to get into real estate. I didn't really have any interest or knowledge. I had only lived at one house growing up, and then our matrimonial home. So it was pretty foreign to me, but I started taking the courses, and it was a bit of a long process. I think it took me about 15 months because I just wasn't in that mindset. I also had 3 kids, a 19-year-old, a 10-year-old, a 5-year-old, and trying to keep our heads above water. So while I started taking my real estate, I had been working at a local factory in Aurelia. I was fortunate that I was friends with the owners, and they very kindly gave me a job, and I was sewing vinyl gym mats from 7 in the morning till 3 in the afternoon. That was our shift, and it worked so well for our family. I was able to leave for work. My husband would get the kids off to school on the bus, and I'd be home at 3:15, and the bus would drop the kids at 20 to 4. I had 2 weeks in the summer, I had Christmas vacation, and then I took March break. So I was really fortunate that I was able to work at the factory sewing mats and doing my real estate. However, my fingers were bleeding, the work was back-breaking, and I just thought I have to do something better for my family. I finished my real estate license. I was able at that time to do it by going to class, so I took my vacation time by doing my real estate schooling. And I met some really great people along the way. When I started at my brokerage that I chose, it was January, and I would go to our local Goodwill and I'd wardrobe myself in amazing power suits, and every day I would get dressed up and go sit in the office. I took duty time, I did research, I sent out letters, I just started putting myself out there. We also had 2 offices, so I was lucky that I was able to go to the office in Aurelia as well as the satellite office in Washago. And I just put in a lot of time and energy, and that's how I got to start my career. I had the blinders on. I just didn't look around. I just looked straight forward and I put one foot in front of the other. I had to. And I had to do that probably for the first 5 years, and it was really difficult. So knowing what I know now, I mean, hindsight's 2020. Would I have done things differently? Perhaps would have taken better notes, would have had better systems. I didn't have any of that. So that's what I would recommend to people who are getting into the business. Take copious amounts of notes, get to know your clients, really ask for those referrals, network. I mean, I can say that now because I have the experience, but then it was just organic. I just did what I felt like I needed to do. Well, I'm very fortunate to have 2 daughters, and the fact that they're 5 years apart is really fortunate for me, because I've been able to spend time with them at different stages in my life and different stages in their lives. Having Kyla join me in my business is just exactly where I wanted the business to go. I want to be able to share with her. She has similar personalities. She's a great worker. She has a great work ethic. She has a business degree. She's vivacious. She's fun. And I think this business is great for her. My other daughter, Allie, who we spent a lot of time together. She is now in the interior design program at Sheridan, and I'm just anxious for her to finish, and hopefully one day she'll be able to come and work with me as well, because I want the evolution of Csumrik and Associates to be a group of women helping people achieve their housing goals.